1-inch Lian Yushin's arm was cut off by Lei Hu, and he almost fainted from the pain. He staggered backwards and spat out large mouthfuls of blood. He fell heavily to the ground. Senior. When Xiao Yan saw Lian Yushin's appearance, he immediately became furious. His anger rose to his head, and his temples started to jump. He was about to rush over. Quick, let's go. Lian Yushin fell to the ground and coughed violently. Every time he coughed, he would cough out a pile of blood. It was as if he had fallen into endless darkness. His strength quickly flowed out of his body. When he heard Xiao Yan's voice, Lian Yushin used the last of his strength to shout. I told you to talk too much. Lei Hu, who saw that Xiao Yan was about to rush over, had a joyful expression on his face when he heard Lian Yushin's intermittent voice. Immediately, he flew into a rage. He lifted his leg and stomped on Lian Yushin's upper body. The huge force caused his chest to sink instantly. Upon hearing Lian Yushin's words, Xiao Yan instantly sobered up from his madness. He was startled by what he had just done. He had experienced the hardships of the lower realm and had a very good disposition. He knew when to give up and when to not act on impulse. Now, he was still acting like an unborn child. His eyes were filled with anger as he looked at the arrogant Lei Hu. Suddenly, his facial expression calmed down. He turned around and quickly ran towards the transportation array. At the same time, he flipped his palm, and a bead-like thing appeared in his palm. Trying to run away? Lei Hu was instantly enraged. He abandoned Lian Yushin and rushed towards Xiao Yan. Lian Yushin fell to the ground. His vision was getting blurrier and blurrier. When he saw Xiao Yan running towards the transportation array, he forced a smile on his face. Yes, quickly. Run. Leave this place. Only then could he take revenge, hatred. At the end of his words, tears flowed out of Lian Yushin's eyes. His voice became weaker and weaker. Revenge. Revenge. After that, the spirit in his eyes was completely extinguished. Only his tearful eyes could not bear to close. Xiao Yan hid his anger deep in his heart. With a cold expression, the remaining origin monarch cheese in his body crazily poured into the round bead in his hand. Without saying a word, he sprinted towards the transportation array, which was a few meters away. Lei Shan, who was in the middle of a fierce battle with Wan Ming, was struck by a palm. After taking a few steps back, Lei Shan subconsciously glanced at Xiao Yan. When he saw Xiao Yan crazily rushing towards the transportation array, he was shocked. Although Lei Hu was also trying his best to catch up, however, there was a gap of more than 10 meters between the two of them. Blue veins popped out on Lei Shan's forehead. He roared furiously at Wan Ming, that kid is going to run away. What if he gets away? It will be bad for both of us. After saying that, without waiting for Wan Ming's reply, he rushed towards Xiao Yan like a bolt of lightning. At the same time, on the high platform in his right hand, the origin monarch chi condensed into a palm that was dozens of feet in size, slapping down at Xiao Yan. When Wan Ming, who had recovered from his shock, heard this, his eyes underneath the black robe instantly became filled with fury. With a furious roar, the origin monarch chi had already condensed into a pair of wings of sovereign chi behind his back. It was even faster than Lei Shan, and it suddenly burst forth with a speed that was even faster than Lei Shan, charging straight towards Xiao Yan. Due to the lack of origin monarch chi's in his body, Xiao Yan could not even use the 9 revolving wind shift. However, the distance of more than 10 meters was as long as a century. Hearing the sound of the air being torn apart behind him, Xiao Yan's eyes flashed. He suddenly turned around and threw the bead in his hand towards the giant hand. At the same time, he shouted, Wan Ming, I'll give you the Saint-grade monarch skill. After saying that, he turned around and ran. Little bastard. When he heard Xiao Yan call out his name, Wan Ming's face underneath the black robe turned ashen. When he saw the bead thrown by Xiao Yan, although he was very confused, could it be that the Saint-grade monarch skill wasn't a scroll? However, Wan Ming didn't dare to take the risk. He gave up on Xiao Yan, who was right in front of him, and rushed towards Lei Shan's giant hand. Wan Ming, Saint-grade monarch skill? Hearing the name of the man in black, Lei Shan's face changed dramatically. He cursed in his heart and wanted to rip the man into pieces, but he still shouted with a livid face, Trash. That kid is playing with you. Quickly catch him. Seeing that his identity had been exposed, Wan Ming simply pulled off the black robe and looked at Lei Shan doubtfully. He quickly glanced at Xiao Yan and estimated that the latter was still within the distance that he could catch up to. His eyes flashed slightly and he still rushed forward and grabbed the bead. Boom! The moment Wan Ming grabbed the bead, he could feel the violent energy coming from it. Wan Ming's facial expression changed drastically. Before he could let go of the bead exploded. The huge energy exploded and sent Wan Ming flying. At the same time, the huge hand that Lei Shan was about to slap exploded, causing Lei Shan to involuntarily take a few steps back. Trash! When Lei Shan saw this, his old face turned red from anger, and he couldn't help but curse in his heart. He had already cursed Wan Ming's 18 generations of ancestors in his heart. When Lei Hu, who was a little later, saw this, he was infuriated by this princess. When he saw that Xiao Yan was only a few meters away from the transportation array, he steeled his heart and bit the tip of his tongue. A stream of blood essence flowed out from the tip of his tongue and mixed with the origin monarch qi. Immediately, a golden light burst out from his body, and Lei Hu's speed instantly increased. In the blink of an eye, he was approaching Xiao Yan. Catch him! Although the huge explosion of the bead did not cause any substantial damage to Lei Shan, it slightly blocked his speed. Seeing that he could not catch up to Xiao Yan, Lei Shan immediately roared when he saw Lei Hu's sudden increase in speed. Woo! Wan Ming, who was sent flying by the impact of the round bead's explosion, quickly stabilized his body. The pain coming from his arms was secondary. The pain from being toyed with by Xiao Yan was the most unbearable to him. Bastard! How dare you fool me? Wan Ming flew into a rage. He flapped the wings of the sovereign qi on his back and rushed towards Xiao Yan at lightning speed. In the blink of an eye, he had arrived behind Xiao Yan. Lei Hu had already swung his fist. Wan Ming, who had lost his mind due to anger, let out a furious roar. The origin monarch qi on his right palm surged violently, and with a force that could shatter mountains and rivers, he forcefully attacked Xiao Yan. When he sensed the fatal attack behind him, Xiao Yan steeled his heart. The weakened crimson gold flame instantly rushed to his back. At the same time, the soul force between his brows surged out, and he fiercely attacked Lei Hu, who was relatively weaker. Bang! Bang! Two deafening rumbles were heard in a row. One fist and one palm landed on Xiao Yan's back. Xiao Yan continuously spat out fresh blood. His eyes were filled with endless dizziness. He felt the strength in every part of his body flowing uncontrollably out of nowhere. The furious roars of Wan Ming and the others also gradually became softer by his ears. Lei Hu's eyes looked like they were about to crack open as he looked at the scene in front of him. Because he was attacking Xiao Yan at the same time as Wan Ming, under the attack from two different angles, Xiao Yan was sent flying into the transportation array. The transportation array, which had accumulated enough energy, felt that someone had entered it. It instantly activated the teleportation function. Bastard! Wan Ming's eyes were also red. Streaks of origin monarch qi were crazily striking at the light emitted by the transportation array. If Xiao Yan escaped, not only would he not be able to obtain the saint-level monarch skill, but he would also offend the Lei clan. At that time, the only thing waiting for him would be death. However, the transportation array was refined by a monarch cultivation and above expert. With Wan Ming's monarch emperor strength, it was impossible for him to destroy it. The two of them could only watch helplessly as the unconscious Xiao Yan gradually disappeared into the light. Woo! Wan Ming, you have ruined the Lei clan's great plan. The elders will definitely tear you into pieces and burn your bones to ashes. Lei Hu's eyes were red as he roared furiously at Wan Ming. The last few words were uttered through gritted teeth. Kiki. Wan Ming's face was gloomy. Both of his fists were tightly clenched. Because of his anger, his chest was violently heaving up and down. After hearing Lei Hu's words, his face turned pale. He looked at the transportation array in front of him with eyes full of anger. Not only did he not get the Saint-grade monarch skill, he had also completely offended the Lei clan. His good days in the future would come to an end. Lei Shan, who had rushed to the two men's side, saw Xiao Yan disappear into the transportation array at the last moment. Immediately, he cried out in pain and almost fell to the ground. Wan Ming, Lei Shan, who had recovered, gritted his teeth and said word by word, "Even if you hide to the ends of the earth, we also have to bear the wrath of the Lei clan." After that, he left with a cold face without saying a word. Lei Hu saw what happened. He also gave Wan Ming a fierce glare, then followed Lei Shan and left. As the two people in charge of Ruifeng City, Xiao Yan had escaped before their eyes. A heavy punishment was unavoidable in the family. Speaking of which, Lei Shan felt somewhat wronged. He was supposed to be in charge of supervising Ruifeng City and the other two cities. After hearing that Xiao Yan had appeared in Ruifeng City, unable to hold back the great rewards from the clan, he ran over to claim the first credit. He didn't expect Xiao Yan to slip away right under his nose. This time, he was trying to steal the chicken but failed to gain the rice. Wan Ming stood where he was, his mouth full of bitterness. After a long time, he left in an indifferent and speechless manner. The surrounding crowd had long escaped from Wan Ming and Lei Shan's battle of monarch-emperor level expert. Only the damaged buildings and the silent Lian Yushin on the ground announced that this place had just experienced a great battle. After the end of the Forest Domain chapter, it would be the next chapter of the Star Moon Spirit Domain. This was the first time they had taken up the payment section, asking for a reward and a fresh flower. 2 Star Moon Spirit Domain, Yunluo Academy. In a beautiful valley, dozens of people were cultivating in different places, deep in the valley. 2 beautiful figures were fighting against each other. With a shout, a cold and elegant woman in green kicked out. Sensing the enormous power contained in the kick, the beautiful woman in red smiled and extended her snow-white arms to block the kick with a mysterious arc. The 2 women separated. The beautiful woman put one hand on her waist and revealed her impressive curves without a doubt. Looking at the beautiful green-clothed woman in front of her, she was half angry and half concerned as she said, "Xuan, what's wrong with you? Why are you in such a bad condition?" The woman in green remained silent. After a long time, she said with a gloomy expression, "Kai's sister Lin, since a few years ago, the dean had promoted us as official disciples. Why didn't he tell us anything about Mr. Xiao Yan?" Kai Lin was stunned for a moment before she remembered. Because Xiao Yan was a saint-rank trial participant, the few of them had received special care ever since they entered the academy. In addition to the fighting monarch of lower realms talent, their improvement was also very fast. In just a short 3 years, they had all advanced to the D class. Some of the elders would occasionally tell Xiao Yan about his safety. After that, the elders of the academy allowed them to be promoted to an academy outside the academy, but no one said anything about Xiao Yan anymore. He hesitated for a moment. Kai Lin lightly parted her red lips and said, "There should be a reason." A trace of worry surged up Xuan brows and a rare trembling voice could be heard. "Sister Lin, I dreamed of Mr. Xiao Yan yesterday. His injuries were so serious. He is covered in blood. I wanted to reach out and pull him, but I was getting further and further away from him. Tell me, did something happen to Mr. Xiao Yan?" At the end of her sentence, Xuan's beautiful eyes were already filled with tears. The rain of the pear flowers made people feel pity for her. When Kai Lin heard this, she also felt a little sad in her heart, but she still forced a smile and said, "Xuan, don't let your imagination run wild. Xiao Yan, that fellow will not be in trouble so easily. That fellow is forcing himself." Kai Lin stepped forward and gently hugged Xuan. Her cold voice also trembled a little at this moment. "Woo. Sister Lin, I am so scared." Xuan leaned on Kai Lin's shoulder and sobbed. Kai Lin gently stroked Xuan black hair and did not know how to comfort her for a moment. "Yo, who is the one who bullied our Xuan? Say it out and see if I will teach him a lesson." At this moment, an oily voice came over. When Kai Lin heard it, a trace of hatred flashed across her beautiful eyes. Xuan raised her head and wiped away her tears. Her expression was cold as she looked at the person who came. The incomer was a young man with yellow hair. He had a medium build and was quite handsome. Behind him were 2 little brothers who were walking back and forth. "Luke, is your skin itchy again? Looks like you haven't learned your lesson yet." Kai Lin turned around and said in a clear and cold voice. She looked at the former with disgust. Hearing Kai Lin's words, Lu Jia's face couldn't help but twitch. He, Kai Lin and a few others had been promoted to an external student. When he first saw Xuan and Kai Lin, he was rudely sent flying by Ji Yuan's palm. Then, because of his frivolous words, he was knocked unconscious by Xuan a few times. Last time, he was kicked away by Kai Lin in public. It could be said that he had lost all his face. "Don't say that. We are classmates after all. I saw Sister Xuan crying and specially came to see. Get lost. Xuan expression was cold as she said. She did not even look at the pig liver like Lu Jia and left with Kai Lin. Woo! Looking at the two girls leaving, Lu Jia was extremely furious, but he still endured it. He knew in his heart that he was definitely not a match for the two of them. They were both 8 martial monarchs, yet they were already able to fight an ordinary martial monarch without losing, yet he was sent flying by a single kick. The difference between them was unimaginable. Damn woman, how dare you look down on me? Just you wait. Lu Jia's expression was gloomy as he spoke. Then, with a cold snort, he brought his 2 lackeys and left in a huff. Sister Lin, I have decided to enter illusory spirit realm with you to cultivate. After walking for a long time, Xuan finally opened her mouth and spoke. Her tone was filled with determination. When Kai Lin heard this, a trace of joy flashed across her beautiful eyes. She smiled and nodded her head before saying softly, entering the illusory spirit realm will allow one's strength to increase rapidly, but it will take at least 4 years for one to come out. Uncle Ji Yu and the rest entered a year ago. After we enter, we will work hard to cultivate. We will only be able to help Xiao Yan when he comes. When Xuan heard this, her eyes were once again filled with sparkling tears. She smiled and nodded her head. In her heart, she thought, Mr. Xiao Yan, you must come safely. No, you will definitely come safely. Sister Lin and I will definitely not drag you down. Kai Lin pulled Xuan hand and her heart was also filled with thoughts. When she thought of Xiao Yan, there was a trace of bitterness in her heart. Kai Lin closed her beautiful eyes and gritted her silver teeth as she fiercely said in her heart. Xiao Yan, King told you to come safely. You must not be in trouble. Lingsing City, the main hall of Lei clan. Lei Shan and Lei Hu were kneeling on the ground, trembling. They didn't even dare to raise their heads. When they felt the tremendous pressure coming from above, they were so frightened that they didn't even dare to breathe loudly. 2 useless people. If you can't even handle a mere sovereign master, what use do I have for you? In front of nearly 100 elders, the deputy patriarch of Lei clan, the younger brother of the current patriarch. Lei Xinyun sat on the main seat, his face filled with anger. He stared coldly at the 2 men who were lying on the ground and said furiously. Lei Shan and the other man had no strength to defend themselves. They could only kowtow and plead guilty. Blood was already dripping from their foreheads. The clan chief already knows about this, and he's also very angry. 3,000 lightning monarch flames. Our clan's dream of tens of years has been lost in the hands of you 2 good-for-nothings. Lei Xinyun was completely enraged, and his vast energy exploded out. Lei Shan and Lei Xinyun were forced to kneel on the ground, and they felt a wave of dizziness in front of their eyes, as if they were about to faint to death. And that Wan Ming, he is even more useless. Lei Xinyun gritted his teeth. Wan Ming was the princess of Deyang Prefecture, and he was personally bestowed the title by the master of Lingsing Prefecture. Although Lei clan could be considered the overlord of Lingsing Palace, he still had to give face to the master of Lingsing Palace. That bastard, sooner or later, I will kill him with my own hands. Lei Xinyun harumphed coldly in his heart, then he looked at Lei Shan and Lei Hu who were lying on the ground. His eyes were filled with disgust. Just as he was about to give the order to kill the 2 men, the great elder who had been silent the whole time walked forward and said with a sigh, Second Patriarch, the kid with the 3,000 lightning monarch flames had already left. It would be useless even if he killed the 2 of them. The most important thing right now was to find out the path of that young man. Otherwise, even if all the people from the Lei clan were to come out, they wouldn't be able to create any waves in the Star Moon spirit domain. Lei Xinyun frowned when he heard this. He waved his hand impatiently. The 2 men who were lying on the ground felt as if they had been granted amnesty. They hurriedly expressed their thanks and left. What should we do between the great elder? Lei Xinyun said with a frown. The great elder of Lei clan. The elder thought for a moment and said in a deep voice, the kid whose soul was searched earlier came from some Falling Rock City, right? Find out which prefecture the Falling Rock City is located in, and send someone there. Perhaps we can find out the destination of that kid. At that time, it will be much easier for us to attack again. Lei Xinyun smiled when he heard this, and then said with a solemn face. Let those 2 trash find out where the Falling Rock City is immediately. 1 month later, I want to know the result. Yes! An elder at the end of the hall hurriedly responded and walked out. Lei Xingyun sat on the main seat and thought for a moment before saying, "When we went to the Starfield to chase that kid, we must be careful not to let the other big families in the Starfield know otherwise. Even if we seize the 3,000 lightning monarch flames, we won't be able to bring them back." The patriarch said that, "The water in Star Moon Spirit Domain is too deep. Our Lei clan can be considered a huge power in the Forest Domain. When we reach the Star Moon Spirit Domain, we can only be considered as an ordinary big family." The great elder nodded and said, "Second patriarch is right. The Star Moon Spirit Domain is one of the 3 primitive domains after all. Although it isn't as strong as the middle domain, it is still very powerful. I will remind you when the time comes." Lei Xingyun nodded his head and didn't say anything else. His eyes were closed, and no one knew what he was thinking. In front of him was endless darkness, and his soul was in a daze. He reached out and felt nothing but emptiness and helplessness. Xiaoyan's soul wandered aimlessly in this deathly silent space. There was no feeling at all. It was as light as a feather. The uncomfortable feeling almost drove Xiaoyan crazy. Just when Xiaoyan was exhausted and about to lose himself, a ray of light shot out from his chest. The soft light wrapped around Xiaoyan's fragile soul. The pain in his soul gradually recovered after the light scattered. A moment later, Xiaoyan could only feel a heart-piercing pain coming from all directions. It was as if his soul was going to explode. "Ah!" He couldn't help but cry out in pain. The darkness before his eyes seemed to be torn apart in an instant, and a flash of light appeared before his eyes. Xiaoyan panted heavily. He looked at the broken roof above his head and was slightly startled. What was this place? He was still alive? Instantly, all the memories flooded into his mind like a tidal wave. Wan Ming and Lei Hu had attacked him at the same time, and by accident, he had entered the transportation array. The line between life and death in Ruifeng City, Lian Yushin's death. When he thought of Lian Yushin's death, Xiaoyan suddenly felt a surge of fury in his chest. He instinctively clenched his fists and felt a heart-piercing pain spread throughout his body. Xiaoyan couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. The strength that he had accumulated because of his anger had vanished in an instant. "I heard you howling like a pig when I was outside. You actually woke up. It seems like you have recovered quite well." At this moment, the door was flung open. A young man with an ordinary face and simple clothes walked in. He smiled when he saw Xiaoyan baring his teeth because of the pain. "Who are you? What is this place? You saved me?" Xiaoyan endured the pain and looked at the young man with a forced smile. "How could I have that ability?" The young man curled his lips and casually sat beside Xiaoyan. "My name is Lu Wu. This is the Black Region of the Spirit Sky City. Do you know what the Black Region is? It's a place that the city guards can't manage. Hee, our boss is the leader of a gang in the Black Region. She was the one who saved you." Without waiting for Xiaoyan to speak, Lu Wu looked at Xiaoyan and said, 5 days ago, our boss went out of the city to pick herbs. When I saw you, I still remember the way I helped you back. Good fellow." His whole body was covered in blood. There is almost no breath, just like a dead person. "We all thought you were dead, but boss couldn't bear to see you die. I gave you some medicine, and I even gave you a few precious medicine pills. I didn't expect that you would wake up in just 5 days." As he spoke, Lu Wu crossed his arms across his chest and said with some surprise, "Is her medicine pill really that effective? If it was that powerful, it would take half a year for her to not get the recognition of the Linkongs Alchemist Association." "Lu Wu, what nonsense was this? Is your skin itchy?" Before Lu Wu could finish his words, a furious voice was heard. Lu Wu was startled and quickly turned around with a smile. His face was full of flattering smiles. "Yo, Sister Ruoxi is here. Didn't I say so? I will take good care of this kid. There is no need for you to get lost." As they were talking, a woman walked in and kicked Lu Wu to the side. She then casually walked to Xiaoyan's side. Only now did Xiaoyan see the girl's face clearly. She was very pretty and her age was probably the same as his. There was a trace of slyness in the corner of her eyes. Her long blue hair was tied into a ponytail and she looked very weird. "Give me your arm." Hearing the woman's unquestionable voice, Xiaoyan helplessly smiled and said, "I can't stretch my arm out." Pain. The woman frowned and sat on the bed. She reached out her hand and gently grabbed Xiaoyan's arm. She bent down and looked at Xiao Yan's injury. Your wound is really serious. What happened? Look at your strength. You are only a 5-star fighting monarch. How could you be so seriously injured? Furthermore, you appeared in the wilderness. The woman's brows were tightly knitted. She looked at Xiao Yan with her big eyes and said in a serious manner. Xiao Yan opened his mouth. It's a long story. I was sent here from the transportation array in Forest Domain. I didn't expect to encounter a turbulent spatial flow and was seriously injured. My original strength was a sovereign, so I was lucky enough not to die. Oh, spatial turbulence, your luck is really good. You can't even die like this. When the woman heard this, she nodded seriously and said, What's your name? Xiao Yan, Xiao Yan said honestly. Xiao Yan, you are fine. Your injuries are still very serious. Take good care of yourself. Lu Wu, come and get some medicine for him to apply later. Take good care of yourself. If you talk about my skill in alchemy again, I will strangle you to death. The girl stood up and reminded Xiao Yan. After that, she turned around and said fiercely to Lu Wu. Then, with a flick of her ponytail, she angrily left. Grandaunt, Lu Wu muttered in a low voice, but there was not the slightest bit of dissatisfaction on his face. Facing Xiao Yan's puzzled look, Lu Wu sat down on the bed. He said to himself, Boss is called Du Ruoxi. He is very kind. Organize all of us who are weak and looked down upon. Living here, Boss is not only a monarch spirit warrior. He is also an alchemist. Sometimes, we brothers are seriously injured. Boss is even sadder than me, concocting medicine pills to save them. I know that with our boss's talent. But every time she failed in her exams, it's because she doesn't want to leave us. At the end of his words, tears actually appeared in Lu Wu's eyes as he started sobbing. When Xiao Yan heard this, he also felt deeply moved in his heart. Although Du Ruoxi looked carefree, her heart was very careful. He could naturally see Lu Wu's respect for Du Ruoxi, and also saw the good deeds that Du Ruoxi had done. You said your original strength was that of an imperial warrior? Haha, I am now a sovereign master. According to the rules of our gang, the stronger one is the leader. You will call me Brother Lu from now on. Lu Wu suddenly wiped away his tears and looked at Xiao Yan with joy. Xiao Yan was stunned for a moment, then he smiled and said, When did I say I want to join the gang? Furthermore, on what basis do you think that the imperial warriors can't beat the imperial masters? Lu Wu's face turned serious, and he said with a fake smile, Hearing what you said, you don't want to join. All right, I'll throw you out now and feed you to the spirit beast. As he spoke, he acted like he was going to lift Xiao Yan up. Xiao Yan hurriedly said, I'll join, but I haven't told boss yet. I'm afraid she won't be willing. Lu Wu nodded in satisfaction when he heard that. He sat down again and said proudly, Young man, don't be delusional. How can an imperial warrior defeat an imperial master? You can just be my little brother. After saying that, he laughed out loud. Xiao Yan was speechless. After a long time, he said weakly, Okay, Brother Lu. Lu Wu heard him and immediately smiled. He said with a cheap face, What do you want to call Brother Lu for? Raise your butt. You were pressing my hand. After talking to Lu Wu for a long time, Xiao Yan finally found out where he was. Originally, he planned to teleport from Lingsing City to the Golden Peak Prefecture of Star Moon Spirit Domain. But now, he had actually arrived at the Spirit Heaven Mansion, which was 2 provinces away from the Golden Peak Prefecture. The Spirit Heaven Mansion was located in the south of Star Moon Spirit Domain. With this, the distance between them and the Yunluo Academy increased by another 2 provinces. After listening to what was said, Xiao Yan fell to the ground powerlessly. Du Ruoxi's gang was called the Tuanji Gang. It was simple and crude. There were more than 30 members in the gang, just like Lu Wu. They respected Du Ruoxi very much. In this black region, there were many gangs, but the strongest one was only at the Monarch Spirit. It was almost impossible to stir up any trouble. Besides, almost all the gangsters in Spirit Sky City were gathered there. It was easy to manage, so the city guards in Spirit Sky City could only turn a blind eye to it. As for this kind of clan struggle, it was up to him. After resting for about 10 days, Xiao Yan finally felt the pain in his body lighten a little. Even so, he could only slightly get up and move around. Xiao Yan was not worried about his external injuries at all. With the help of Du Ruoxi's medicinal herbs and the fact that he could secretly concoct some effective medicinal liquid with one hand, he estimated that he would be able to recover from his external injuries in about half a month's time. However, the serious injuries in his soul and body gave Xiao Yan a headache. Previously, in order to break Lei Shan's Thunder Dragon prison domain, he didn't hesitate to consume his source energy, causing severe damage to his body. The Monarch Flame was extremely weak, and the Xiao Ao was still recuperating in the Sovereign Fire Source. If he didn't think of a way, the Monarch Flame would most likely suffer a fundamental blow. Thinking of this, Xiao Yan felt somewhat fortunate that he didn't reject the Jade Elemental Bead that Man Yun had given him in Forest Domain. Although it didn't have the effect that he had expected, it had still given him a precious opportunity. My current strength should have recovered to the Sovereign Realm. If I don't get rid of the injuries in my body, even if I recover to the Sovereign Master Realm, there will still be a huge hidden danger. Lying on the bed, Xiao Yan had a worried look on his face. He looked at his messy body with a bitter expression. Up until now, he had been seriously injured, and the Xiao Ao had used up a lot of his strength to recuperate. The Xiao Yi, as the fire spirit of the Monarch Flame, had no choice but to fall into a deep sleep because of the Monarch Flame. It's really useless. Xiao Yan underestimated him. At this time, Lu Wu walked in with a white jade bottle in his hand and said, "Get up, the medicine has been applied." These days, Lu Wu would take a bottle of medicinal liquid that Du Ruoxi refined and apply it to Xiao Yan every day. Sometimes, it would also be others, just like what Lu Wu had said. When these people talked about Du Ruoxi, their faces were filled with admiration. They also understood the good intentions of the latter. Although it was said that it was a gang, everyone actually got along very well with each other. In order to maintain the expenses of the gang, everyone would go to the nearby mountains to pick herbs or kill some low-grade spirit beasts when they were free. Sell them in exchange for some monarch crystals. Due to Xiao Yan's injuries, ordinary herbs were unable to provide any healing effects. These herbs were picked by Du Ruoxi from a distant valley. After spending a few days together, Xiao Yan had also witnessed Du Ruoxi's character. She was a typical cold person on the outside, but hot on the inside. On the surface, she was carefree towards the members of the gang, but her heart was like a strand of hair, just like what Lu Wu had said before. After stripping Xiao Yan of his clothes, Lu Wu poured the yellow medicinal liquid from the jade bottle onto Xiao Yan's chest. After that, a pair of rough hands quickly wiped the medicinal liquid evenly. When the medicinal liquid was poured onto his body, a scorching heat instantly spread throughout his entire body. Xiao Yan endured the pain and said, "Can you be gentle? I am still injured." Lu Wu snorted coldly in disdain. After a few strokes, he stood up and teased. "If you're afraid of pain, you can let boss apply it on you. Boss's strength is light, haha." When Xiao Yan heard this, his head was full of black lines. He shook his head and said no more. Lu Wu was about to chase after him when Xiao Yan suddenly spoke. "The ingredients for these medicinal liquids are very expensive, right?" Lu Wu was stunned for a moment, then he shook his head and said vaguely, maybe. It has always been boss who bought it, but in Spirit Sky City, these kinds of medicinal liquids with serious injuries are generally not cheap." "Nonsense," Xiao Yan said snappily. He thought for a while and said, "When I was in Forest Domain, I once entered a ruin and obtained some monarch crystals. There should be 100,000 inside. Give it to boss for me." After saying that, Xiao Yan's weak soul searched the storage ring for a while. Then, he took out the storage rings Lien Yunhai had given him and stored them in his spatial monarch crystal. 100,000. Lu Wu's eyes almost popped out when he saw the black storage ring in Xiao Yan's hand. He swallowed a mouthful of saliva and immediately grabbed it with a big smile on his face. "Good kid, I didn't see it. How do you know that the sect is in need of monarch crystals?" Haha. As he spoke, Lu Wu was about to kiss Xiao Yan intimately. However, his old face was slapped to the side by the latter. Lu Wu laughed and fell out of the door. "Sigh, I'll take out 100,000 first. If I take out 500,000 at once, it would be too frightening." When Xiao Yan heard Lu Wu's crazy laughter in the yard, he shook his head helplessly. Although he also lacked monarch crystals, Du Ruoxi's favor was too great. Her life was almost saved by him. The 100,000 monarch crystals seemed too light. Furthermore, These people had been taking care of him for so many days, and Xiao Yan was also willing to help the gang do some things. Since he could not do anything, he could only pay. I still need to organize a few storage rings. In the future, I still need to find an excuse to give monarch crystals. After thinking for a while, Xiao Yan stretched out his hand. There were a total of 2 storage rings on his finger. One was his, and the other was left behind by Elder Yi. He thought of Elder Yi. Xiao Yan felt a wave of melancholy again. It had been more than a year since he left the illusion realm. In just a short year, he had experienced so many things. Just as Xiao Yan was lost in his thoughts, Du Ruoxi suddenly brought Lu Wu into the room. She looked at Xiao Yan with a serious face and shouted, "Do you know how much 100,000 monarch crystals is? How can you take it out just like that? Do you think that I did not work hard to treat you because of your monarch crystal?" Xiao Yan was stunned. He glanced at Lu Wu, who was behind Du Ruoxi. This guy looked at him with a wronged face. He pointed at Du Ruoxi and shook his head. Xiao Yan looked at Du Ruoxi, who was obviously angry, and sat up. He stared at Du Ruoxi's eyes and said slowly, "Are you kidding me? My life is not something that can be offset by 100,000 monarch crystals. You are kind and think that it has hurt your self-esteem. But have you ever thought about the 30 over brothers in the Tuanji gang? They respect you. In order to respect you, you are willing to give up the honor of the Alchemist Guild to help them. Then, isn't this 100,000 monarch crystals a better way to help them?" Du Ruoxi heard this and said with a cold face, "I can help them myself." "I don't need you." Xiao Yan smiled and said, "You are alone. Even if our brothers help you, how much can they repay you? Take Lu Wu for example. He is now a second Dao sovereign master, but if he has enough monarch crystals, he can buy some ordinary medicine pills that are useful for his cultivation. He can definitely advance to the 4th Dao in advance, and not cultivate slowly here." Du Ruoxi's pretty face changed slightly when she heard this. She subconsciously looked at Lu Wu behind her, and saw the latter's innocent expression. Du Ruoxi lightly sighed and her tough voice also softened. "You are right. I cannot harm them because of my self-esteem. But 100,000 Spirit Sky Cities is too much. It is not a small fortune even in Spirit Sky City. Take some back." Xiao Yan laughed out loud and said, "Like I said, my life is not something that 100,000 Xiao Yans can offset. For the time being, you don't have to worry about the trivial matters of the sect. You can focus on dealing with the matters of the Alchemist Association." Du Ruoxi bit her lips and nodded. "That's right. Actually, I'm sorry to say that. How could I reject the invitation of the Alchemist Association? Joining the Alchemist Association requires more than 10,000 monarch crystals. Furthermore, I need someone to recommend." Xiao Yan smiled slightly. "I heard from Lu Wu that the alchemists who join the Alchemist Guild will receive a certain amount of subsidy every month. A Tier 1 alchemist will receive 3,000, and a Tier 2 alchemist will receive 8,000. Your alchemy skills should be at Tier 1, right? Furthermore, the person who recommends you will only need to reach Tier 2, right?" Seeing Du Ruoxi nod her head, Xiao Yan suddenly smiled slyly. "Boss, don't worry. In a few months, someone will recommend you." Quote. Du Ruoxi saw the sly smile on Xiao Yan's face and her heart skipped a beat. She softly said, "Could it be that you know an elder in the Alchemist Association?" Xiao Yan smiled noncommittally, but his heart twitched slightly. His skill in alchemy had been honed by Elder Yi, so it should not be difficult for him to refine a second-grade medicine pill. But now, his soul force had been greatly damaged. He estimated that he had just reached the soul level of a great world. Soul of a sovereign realm. Do you want to become an alchemist in the lower realm? I can definitely recommend it to you. Seeing Xiao Yan's mysterious smile, Du Ruoxi's heart was filled with doubt. This guy was only at the emperor level. What else could he do? After Du Ruoxi and the others left, Xiao Yan felt a headache. If he continued to recover naturally like this, it would take a long time for him to recover his true monarch stage soul. He had to find a way to recover it as soon as possible. After thinking for a while, Xiao Yan suddenly remembered the scene when his soul power was wrapped by a soft light when he was unconscious. It was because of that soft light that his soul power wouldn't dissipate due to the blurriness of his consciousness. His hand unconsciously touched his chest. Xiao Yan lowered his head and looked. The words on his chest were fuzzy. If one did not look carefully, one would not be able to see it. It seemed to be completely integrated with his body. This thing, how should I use it? Xiao Yan felt helpless. It seemed like the words would only appear when he was being suppressed by the qi. At that time, he would be able to use it. It was just like when Lei Hu was chasing him, using his qi to suppress him, causing the prestige power spell to explode. After that, he had ruthlessly schemed against that old man. Sighing lightly, Xiao Yan could only withdraw his gaze from his chest. He reckoned that he wouldn't be able to count on this great god anymore. When his eyes fell upon the storage ring given by Elder Yi, Xiao Yan's heart moved. Soul energy flowed out from between his brows and entered the storage ring on his finger. This wasn't the first time Xiao Yan had come in. Last time in Falling Rock City, Xiao Yan had used his soul energy to enter, but that time, he was attracted by the 2 scrolls given to him by Elder Yi. He had neglected the huge space of this ring. The soul power was slowly swimming in it. Looking around, this storage ring space was like a heaven and earth, just like the Saint-grade Monarch skill scroll. It was a world of its own. Looking at it, Xiao Yan was slightly speechless. It was indeed worthy of being the thing that the ultimate saint expert would warn before. It was truly extraordinary. All of a sudden, Xiao Yan, who had relaxed his mind, felt a trace of power that caused his soul to palpitate. After carefully feeling it, he couldn't help but feel delighted. This was the feeling of the soul. Although 10,000 years had passed and the soul energy within the ultimate saint expert had become insignificant, it was still a precious place for Xiao Yan to nourish his soul. Feeling the warmth coming from his weak soul, Xiao Yan's nervous heart relaxed a little. It seemed like Elder Yi had used his soul to nourish this storage ring before he died, leaving behind some soul aura. In the end, this storage ring was given to him as a disciple. Although this recovery speed was still extremely slow, it was still better than nothing. The hidden dangers of recovering this storage ring would also be removed. There were very few things that could help recover one's soul. Xiao Yan was already very satisfied that he could do this. Looking at the speed, I estimate that it will take at least 3 months for it to recover to its previous level. That's good. At least there won't be any abnormal experts here. Otherwise, once the qi is released, the prestige power spell will torture the soul. At that time, it will be very fun. Taking a deep breath, Xiao Yan was about to withdraw his mind when he suddenly saw a pile of scrolls not far away. Could it be the Monarch skill? He remembered what Elder Yi had said. There were a few scrolls of the Monarch arts in the storage ring, but due to the incompatibility of its attributes, it was not given to Xiao Yan to cultivate. He casually picked up a scroll and looked at it. When Xiao Yan saw it clearly, he couldn't help but reveal a bitter smile. Mid-grade Water Elemental Monarch Arts, Great Disc Heavenly Palm. Looking at the dusty scroll in his hand, Xiao Yan helplessly sighed. If these things were placed outside, most monarch cultivation warriors would probably fight over them with red eyes, but for his teacher, they were like trash that was randomly piled up. Xiao Yan glanced at the monarch skill in front of him. There were about 7 or 8 scrolls. He groaned in his heart and then looked at them again. Haha, this is the style of a powerful warrior. He recalled the time when he had broken through to the fighting monarch realm in the lower realm. Weren't there a lot of earth-rank Do techniques that he had treated as trash in the storage ring? He had even casually placed the heaven-ranked Do techniques that others had treated as supreme treasures. At that time, his attitude was probably similar to Elder Yi's. When he thought of this, Xiao Yan immediately felt relieved. He no longer cared about the monarch arts' dust. He casually fiddled with it and the pile of scrolls fell down. Next to them, a crystal-clear jade bottle rolled out. What is this? Seeing that the jade bottle was still as clean as before, Xiao Yan curiously picked it up. Something that could be placed together with a pile of monarch arts shouldn't be bad. He picked it up and looked at it. There was a soul mark on the jade bottle. He could feel a familiar soul feeling from it. It was obviously Elder Yi's. Xiao Yan thought for a moment and tried to use his soul to trigger the mark. Buzz. The moment Xiao Yan's soul touched the soul mark, a terrifying pressure that caused his expression to change surged over like a tidal wave. It was like a peerless, ferocious beast that could devour the heaven and earth, roaring as it rushed towards Xiao Yan's fragile soul. Xiao Yan instantly broke out in a cold sweat. This kind of soul pressure was not small. If he was hit by it, with his current weak soul, it was very likely that it would completely disappear. Buzz. The moment before the terrifying soul pressure attacked Xiao Yan, a buzzing sound that resounded throughout the entire spatial zone suddenly sounded like a huge yellow bell. After that, a golden ray of light shot out from Xiaoyan's chest. Within the light, a huge black and gold word slowly rotated, as if it had crushed the endless blue sky, and rushed towards the roaring soul pressure. Bang! A deafening explosion swept across, but there was not a trace of smoke spreading. Xiaoyan could only feel that the space shook slightly. Soon after, the soul pressure had already slowly dissipated and was completely absorbed by the large black and gold word. Woo! Xiaoyan's expression changed drastically the moment the large black golden word absorbed the soul pressure. A pain that penetrated deep into his bone marrow swiftly spread from the depths of his soul. Although it would not cause his soul to disappear, the torture and pain caused Xiaoyan to involuntarily roar. Compared to the pain this time around, the pain he had suffered in the illusionary realm was nothing. Due to the intense pain, Xiaoyan could not help but roar and fall to the ground. His entire body twitched and curled up. The jade bottle in his hand fell down. The lid of the jade bottle also fell out due to the twisting of his body. Just as Xiaoyan was tortured to the point of losing control of his body and mind, he suddenly felt a faintly discernible light breeze slowly drifting over. When it came into contact with the transparent void formed by soul power, Xiaoyan, who was in so much pain that he wished he was dead, suddenly felt relaxed. What's going on? He felt the pain in his body lighten a little. Xiaoyan struggled to sit up and looked at the jade bottle on the ground. The light qi was leaking out from the jade bottle. He used a lot of effort to pick up the jade bottle and put it in front of him. The colorless smell seemed to be leaking out even faster, causing Xiaoyan's pain to lessen. This thing actually has the effect of nourishing the soul? Xiaoyan was shocked, and then he was overjoyed. In a short period of time, the intense pain caused by the prestige power spell absorbing the aura from the soul had disappeared. He tried to touch the soul imprint on the jade bottle. The moment Xiaoyan's soul touched the soul imprint, an arrogant and unruly voice appeared in his mind. The Qi source soul found in the crippled city of Middle Domain is a good thing. It will be helpful to my soul, but it won't be of much use to me. I'll just leave it for now. In the future, I can use it to blackmail that old bastard Gongsun Yu. His disciple is about to enter the illusory realm, and it seems like he needs this thing. There's hope for him to break through to the Saint Realm at that time. Elder Yi's voice became softer and softer. Xiaoyan finally understood what was going on. It turned out that it was something Elder Yi had obtained before he advanced to the Saint Realm. It was something beneficial to the soul. However, it had been put away for more than 10,000 years, so it should still be useful. Suppressing his excitement, Xiaoyan looked inside the jade bottle. He saw 3 drops of black liquid emitting a gentle silver light, lying quietly in the jade bottle.